What's up? What's up? What's up? And good morning, guys. It is Thursday, and the sun is beautiful outside. And welcome to my live stream on Facebook. My name is Cheng. I'm a professional photographer, filmmaker, and an Olympus ambassador. So yes, this live stream is all about photography and filmmaking, or anything that you want to talk about. Olympus cameras, of course, and yeah, I'm here for you. But anyway, and welcome back to this live stream. If you are new here, I do this between Monday to Friday, 11 to 11:30 a.m. GMT London time, which is now. Excellent. Right, I changed my outfit a little bit, well, not so much. I actually have something on my head. I'm going to show you in a minute. Going to be really, really cool because you know that this particular week I've been showing you some brand new Olympus merchandise. Exciting stuff. If you are an Olympus fans, and you will definitely like them. And I will actually do a proper review video on my YouTube channel, so you just have to stay tuned for that a particular video in the coming week, hopefully week or weeks, maybe, I don't know, depending on what sort of time I'm going to be. Good morning, Trevor. Yeah, welcome. I can't stop longing today. Right, cool. So as usual, if you're new here, I do have some sort of structure or some kind of a schedule for the day, so we know we're not kind of wandering off too far from the topics and things like that. So this is the topic of the day. So let me just bring it up right here. Where is it gone now? Here you go. So usually I'll divide the live stream into three sections. First of all, I'll give you guys some sort of general updates about me, myself, my family, because this live stream is of course on Facebook and it's public. Everybody in the world can see this. And I just want to use this opportunity to also update my friends and family who don't actually know me, to let them know that we are safe and sound in London, you know, about all this pandemic issues at the moment. So yeah, it's good to just keep them informed, right? Whether they're going to be watching it or not, you know, it doesn't matter. At least they know that that's, you know, when they watch this video, they know that we're okay. So then after that, we're going to do a topic of the day, and today's topic is how much should you spend on gear? Interesting, right? Okay, and Q&A, of course. But Q&A is not really the last section of today's stream. It's actually, you know, as in when you have something to say, just pop the comment up, and then as soon as I see it, I will answer you accordingly. Good afternoon, Barana. Welcome back. Excellent. So we have some people starting here already, and shall we get started? I think we should. Okay. So general update, and as you can see, I'm smiling, I'm happy, and the sun is shining. I really cannot wait to go back out and start filming and doing some YouTube videos very soon, because I'm getting bored, you know, like creativity-wise, you know, and of course, you know, you can be really creative at home, but you know, it's always different when you actually breathe in sort of like a fresh air from outside, and also hearing these people interactions. And I'm an outdoor person. I just like to be out. But anyway, it's okay, you know. And as long as people are safe and sound, it really is the most important thing, you know, at this moment in time. As I mentioned to you guys, there were a couple of sad news that I heard last week, which I reported to you guys yesterday, that a couple of my photographer friends actually yeah, passed away, and because of the COVID-19, and I'm quite really shocked and sad to hear about that. So you know, it really hits you hard, you know, especially, you know, you really kind of connect with them before, and you really know them in person, and yeah, it's not always good when you hear that sort of thing. So anyway, stay safe. That's what I want to say. But today's topic is how much should you spend on gear? Right. Okay. Let me switch it off now, and. Okay, so this is a really tricky question, because I do have a lot of question every now and then, and when someone, whether they're going to be starting out in photography, really beginner level, just trying to get a better camera to move up from smartphones, or whether they already a seasoned photographer but using a lower end cameras, but they want to upgrade to more more professional or high end cameras. You know, it's always this budget issue. How much money do you have? How much money would you like to spend, or how much money should I spend to buy whatever gear I need? You know, you have to weigh out a lot of things here. So I'm hoping this particular live stream will kind of help you out a little bit. I know we all have gas, which, you know, which gear acquired syndromes, and is that what it's called? Gas. And so yeah, it's kind of like a men thing, right? You know, we just kind of, yeah, like to acquire stuff, you know, and hoard them over time and become like a big massive collections there. Is normal, but for people who really tight on budget and things like that, you know, or especially those who are students and they really want to get into photography as a profession or filmmaking, and you know, you are really severely limited by the amount of money you can spend. So hopefully this will clear things up a little bit, and then also give you some sort of directions and what sort of thing you should be buying. And I'm just using Olympus as an example because I do have a whole bunch of Olympus gears in front of me here, and so I could use it as a demonstration. But I mean, of course, that applies to any other brands, and they have a similar sort of levels in terms of models, definitions, and things like that, like beginner, intermediate, and professional kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully that will be sufficient to give you some sort of thing to do. And so like, you know, like. I do have a lot of cameras, and not only because I'm a professional, I do have 2 or 3 spare bodies because I will need it in a job. So just in case one breaks down, it's a very normal thing. You know, like Trevor would definitely know a lot about having second camera and maybe even third cameras, because when you're working in a environmental, also when you're working in professional environment, it is difficult. You know, and you really want the assurance. You don't want to. Your main camera breaks down and you don't have nothing to shoot, and then you'll be like, oh God, what am I going to do now? I have lost my camera. I cannot work. You know, it will be not only embarrassing, but actually really dangerous by means of that you could get sued by your client, you know, because like they paid you, they may actually make the trip to a specific location, you know, asking you to photograph, and then suddenly your camera breaks down, and then what is going to happen? You have nothing else to do, and then, so, you know, I know today's camera is very reliable, yeah, but there is always a chance, you know, nothing is 100%, yeah, so every now and then, you know, like you will have a failure, some, you know, whether it's the camera being too old, or just some sort of technical issues, or simply just a faulty camera. And you really cannot foresee or avoid. So the only thing you can mitigate that problem is to have a second camera. So just in case, you may never ever use it, but just in case things, to have a second camera there. So I do have more cameras than I need, and that's for a fact. But also, you know, being being a reviewer on YouTube, and I do have a lot more gears than I really need, and simply because I just received them, I can review them, and so I have them at home, and I can just use them for other projects if I need to. So this is the luxury of in my position. But would you need it? Absolutely not. And because in fact, you know, like if like I mentioned, if you're a professional, very likely you're going to use or have more than one camera because of the security issue. But you know, if you're amateur, if you're not really making money from your photography and filmmaking, you're really a hobbyist, and you know, you really don't need too many, and you may have 2, doesn't matter, you know, but 3, 4, 5, that may be becoming more excessive in that sense. And I'll just show you a little bit of a joke, you know, which I took a couple of years ago now in 2012, and I'm only purely looking at the Olympus stuff. You know, in 2012 I bought my very first Olympus EM5 camera, which is the very first OMD camera, which is a, you know, very sexy looking retro mirrorless camera that really got me into, you know, not only Micro Four Thirds, but also into the mirrorless world, because at the time I was still a big Canon guy, and so I just attracted to what it looks like, and I bought it because of the look. But then I got impressed because of the performance, you know, and all the IBIS and the things like that were just fantastic. So I loved that camera to bits. 5 years on, in 2017, you can see that my system had grown significantly. And at the time, I already switched from Canon to Olympus, and you can see that my collection of lenses has exponentially, boom, it just exploded. I got a lot more choices and things like that because I needed it for my professional job, because I sold all my Canon stuff, and I had to buy the equivalent in the Micro Four Thirds world. So now I have even more than that picture show, because that was taken in 2017, now it's 2020, and I probably doubled the amount now. And but yeah, it's a lot of things that happen over the years. But you know, something that I want to say to you guys is, do you really need to expand like that? If you're a professional, more likely you will end up like myself, you know, having a lot of spare lenses or different lenses for different occasions or different kind of shoot. Because I do quite a big variety of stuff stuff. You know, I don't just shoot wedding, I shoot a lot of documentary stuff. I filmed as well. So filming is also kind of very different to photography. You will need to have some slightly different set of lenses and focal lengths depending on what sort of feel you want to achieve. So yeah, you know, that's kind of double up a lot of things. But anyway, so that's all right. But all you need really is just one big giant camera. Not as big as this, of course, and this is just a joke, but then what I mean is you should have just one camera that you use the most and also trust, whichever that is. So, you know, of course, I cannot really truly recommend, you know, I can, you know, talk to you individually. If you have a specific requirement, I'll say I could recommend you to this camera, but ultimately I would still, like I said it for so many videos now, I said to you guys, go out to a camera store if you can. Obviously nowadays probably it's quite difficult, but in the UK at least, you know, you have the return policy, so you can buy online, open the box, try out in your hand, you know, like if you don't like it or it's just not suitable for you, you can return it, right? So so trying is the best way to learn about a camera and to understand how you can utilize it for your needs. Of course, you know, you have to kind of look at the specification as well, you know, although I hate studying specification, but to a certain extent, it helps you to understand what you need or what you don't need. For instance, if you never really shoot videos, then you know why the hell do you need 4K, you know, or slow motion or any other kind of thing that relating to video, right? If you're just purely looking at a photographer, but if you're hybrid shooting, then it's very different. Like myself, and you really want a lot of the professional video features, and that's totally the different thing altogether. And then you look at the budget, the build, weather seal, all these kind of little things would affect your decision ultimately whether you you know, whether you will go outside and need these sort of little features, right? Okay, and so yeah, one camera. Brianna has something here. Let me just read out your comment. You got the EM1 too, but many lenses are EM5. Oh, right, okay, so your wife changed from the Canon EOS 200D. That is quite an old camera, but you know, she should be really happy with the EM5 Mark III because that is light years you know, ahead of that particular that Canon that you had. Yeah, the EM5 III is a phenomenal lens. A camera is really good, and also small as well, isn't it? It's a very lightweight camera. Really? So your EM2 is EM1 Mark II is on service, so you're borrowing the EM5. How do you find the EM5? It's basically a miniature of EM1, right? You know, in terms of features and performance, it's really good. I do actually like that camera a lot. It's just a shrunk EM1. Okay, so that is pretty awesome. And so that's kind of camera. I'm going to show you something. So I did tell you earlier about if you if you are doing certain things with your camera, and that would affect your ultimate budget for your gear acquisition. So like if you do primarily travel, you know, something like these, you know, like you're gonna take some shots like these, and really, you know, like if you are using the lower end camera, like the beginner level EM10 series or EM5, it would be the same. If you're using a much higher end camera like the EM1 or the EM1X camera, there would be no difference whatsoever, because you don't need, for instance, you don't need tracking, you don't need high res stuff, you know, and you know, these sort of travel shots, it can be done with a simple camera. So you can go straight to the beginner level camera like the EM10 Mark II, Mark III, APL 9, 10 series, even TG6 in a compact camera. You know, you don't need a very expensive camera. So if your primary reasons is to do travel photography and to get you started, you don't need a lot of money at all. You can just, you know, have a really minimum budget and just go for the beginner level a camera with a kit lens, and that's more than sufficient to capture some shots that you want during travel. And you know, even things like this, you know, this was captured with an EM5 Mark II. It was a 16 megapixel camera, and you can see it's perfectly fine. And mind you, the EM5 Mark II and is probably have a similar sort of level of image quality IQ as the EM10 Mark III. So yeah, you can actually get a beginner level camera to achieve things like these now. Is, you know, you don't need to spend a fortune, and the EM10 costs about what, 400 something pound with the kit lens. It's very affordable these days, and that, because it's interchangeable lenses, if you do want other lenses to change a little bit, to up the level in terms of image quality, you can actually just go out ahead and buy some new lenses instead of getting a new body. So the budget can be very low. You don't have to spend a fortune, you know, like things like these. You really don't need any professional camera to do that. I know a lot of people with big egos, and myself used to be like that, and I thought I have to get the biggest and best camera to capture shots, you know, beautifully. But ultimately, remember, the gear does not make you a better photographer. It's you yourself to making the improvement, not the camera itself. I mean, it helps technology-wise, but only in terms of speed and reliability. You know, it will get you shot quicker and more reliability, more consistent. Definitely in that sense. So yeah, just be mindful about what I just said. So then again, if you are a parent like myself, and then I have kids running around, you want to capture them, like during sports day, you know, and then so what would, you know, how would that affect your budget? Right, okay, and that depends on how picky you are, by means of the how would you like to use these photographs. You know, would you just be taking them and then viewing them on smartphones, or just, you know, email them around to friends and family across the globe, not printing them and things? And in that case, you just can use any camera. Even your iPhone would do the job, means smartphone. But if you are just a little bit picky, you want to capture, you know, your son playing football, or your daughter in the gymnasium and doing some sort of sports and things like that, and you want to capture a really nice shot that you want to frame up, and that's different. Right, in that case, you will need a camera that is slightly better in terms of tracking and continuous focus, and that will allow you to get better shots in general. So like, you know, that will be like, for instance, for this particular photo, my son was actually running towards me, and I'll show you another one. There is my daughter doing the same thing. That you can capture the shots perfectly sharp with the likes of the new EM5 Mark III, the EM1 series, of course. You know, that all these cameras will have tremendous continuous AF tracking capabilities that will allow you to do these action shots very easily. Especially with face detect on the EM1 Mark III, is just phenomenal. So like, you could just basically point the camera to your son and daughter, and it will just track the face, and just, you can almost forget about moving the focusing point at all. You just automatically detect the face and just tracking it. Just phenomenal, right? This is really good, but only because if you have the budget, because they are obviously more expensive than the beginner level cameras like the EM10 series. You are talking about more than double the price. You know, the EM5 Mark III starts from about, I think, 999 now. It's about $1,000. So like, it's definitely more double the price of the EM10, which is about 400-500 quid, including kit lens. So you have to weigh out that whether you do want to spend that much. But anything with that kind of capabilities, tracking wise and continuous focus, you will need to spend a bit more than, you know, the standard stuff. So you just have to be mindful whether you would need to print them or hang them out. You know, if you're really a passion photographer, why not? You know, like just a little bit of investment in that will get you a long way in terms of like performance like this. You can capture a lot more action stuff. And also things like these as well. You know, this is slightly different. You know, if you just want to have some fun, and I did that with a TG6, because the TG6 and TG5 has Pro Capture. It's actually really good fun. And I did this photograph when I was working with a school, local school, and I actually asked Olympus to support my project, and so they sent me a bucket load of it was the TG5 at the time, TG5 cameras, and about 20 of them, and I take it to school, and I ran a 7-week and a 4 weeks worth of photography course in school, and then they were all the kids have one of the TG5s and start playing with them. I just wanted to show them fun, you know, the fun side of photography. You can capture things like these. So this shot I didn't do this one, actually one of the kids did. So I just want to show you that how capable in today's technologies, you know, in the it's possible for a young kid, like a 6-7-year-old kid, to do that sort of thing. It's amazing, right? So it's fun, it's really cool. And so for that, these sort of things, if you're just purely having fun, get a compact camera, you know, and most of the time these days we have something similar, but Pro Capture is more like a Olympus thing. So I think only TG series have that sort of capability, but it's actually very, very good, especially it's waterproof for kids, right? You know, like they can drop it and it's drop proof and waterproof, so like it's almost an indestructible camera. It's really good. So let me just another one here. So if your purpose is just to hop around, good morning Mo, and so if you just hop around the street trying to do a little bit of street photography, then once again, you know, you don't need an expensive camera, and EM10 would do the job. And the topic of the day, Mo, is oh wait, I forgot now. Let me just bring that up again. This is the topic of the day, and I need to switch up this photo here. So how much should you spend on gear? So this is the topic of the day. So I'm actually talking about, like, you know, if you're only doing street photography, things that you don't really need an expensive cameras, and because a lot of the time you're not really looking for tracking, so you can just write out that option that you don't need tracking, although it may help in certain situations, but you may not need it. You probably won't need high ISO performances, you know, and because it's so different to professional shooting environments. So yeah, any simple camera can do the job. I saw a lot of really good street photography using just simple smartphone, and you know, you don't need to spend 3-4 grand, of course, you know, on the camera, but that depending on whether you can actually afford it. But I'm talking a little bit about around 20k. Mo just said about 20k. Right, yeah, it's yeah, it's a, you know, I'm more talking about people starting out, you know, and because I receive these sort of questions a lot, Mo, from people who are starting out. They say, oh, you know, how much should I spend if I want to get something for this and that? I always say to them, it really depends on what you do in photography, whether what sort of things you want to work on, you know, in the photography, whether you just want to travel or just want to do street, whether you just want to capture, you know, your kids running around and kind of thing, and or eventually if you want to move into an environment whether you start making money from it, which is mean professional photography, that is all very, very different. So at the moment I'm coming up to the point to talk about fun stuff, and so it's not necessarily making money, but there are some actions like capturing your kids in the sports and things, so you need tracking. So street photography, you're just doing as a hobby. If you start with, you don't need an expensive camera, you know, because all you need to do is train your eyes. Remember, it's always about your eyes and composition, yeah? And I said it second time now today, is that gear doesn't make you a better photographer, you know, it's all about your eyes and your mind, and, you know, how you see things, interpret it, and just clicking the button. So it's very, very important to kind of make sense of that. So now we move up a level now. We start talking about professional stuff. So if you really, your intention is eventually you want to move into the professional stadium, you know, trying to make money from photography, that is a total different story. Right, not only just features, because ultimately, professional photographers don't utilize a lot of the automatic features, and they, you know, like most photographers, they are control freaks. They like to take control of everything. And good morning, David. And yeah, you know, see, David already said that EM10 is good for street, and I totally agree. You don't really need anything fancy. Only if you are a fashion icon, the kind of thing, you want to get a better looking camera. There will be like the Penf, you know, still my fashion queen, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But David's totally fine. You know, I think EM10 is a phenomenal camera for street. It looks the part as well, right? And it's very affordable. So like, you better spend on better glasses, like better lenses, than actually the better body, because that's really good body, you know, and you're just lacking of the weather seal. But you know, if you're not really using a lot in the rain, and that should be fine. So let's talk about professional now. And if your ultimate goal is to make a few bucks from photography, and of course, then you would need something, first of all, not about features and not about how many megapixels. I think I said it multiple times now since I first started this Facebook live stream, is reliability. There you go. You know, I said it at the beginning of this stream today as well. Reliability is one of the single most important thing about a professional using their cameras. They need something that would not let them down, especially in digital world, you know. And in the film era, the reliability wasn't too bad, you know, and yeah, you will get shutter jams and stuff like that if you, depending on where you are, if you are shooting a lot in the dusty environment like sand dunes and things like that, that'd be, you know, there is a tendency of failing the camera. But digital tend to have a lot of software issues and also electronical contacts and everything like that. And I've heard so many people had problems before. I personally experienced problem with even my Canon professional systems. You know, that's why I always, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I always have 2 cameras with me when I go onto a job, just in case one breaks down. It doesn't mean that it will, but you know, it's all these uncertainties that you cannot foresee, right? That's why it's called accident. So things like that, you know, like if I turn up a job like doing a proposal, you know, like I'm in this really critical moment, you know, you really don't want to miss that moment. And you will have 2 cameras on my shoulder. And then if suddenly one of the cameras they're holding doesn't function or doesn't respond, I'll quickly drop that and bring the other one up and just continue that moment. You know, you will lose a little bit, but at least you're not completely losing it altogether. So that is very important. Oh, Mo is going. Okay, bye, Mo. And I actually think if you want to make money from photography, you need a reliable camera. And that's the time when you start looking at slightly more expensive camera. Not so much because of the features. I know a lot of people actually had this dilemma or questions or maybe even complain about the EM1 versus the EM5, for instance. People will always say, oh, the EM5 has all the features of the EM1, you know, and why would I spend more on the EM1, blah, blah, blah. You know, like it's a valid comment, because if you look at purely on the spec sheet, they look almost identical. And why one is still like a couple of £100 more than EM5, despite being a bigger body, having a bigger battery. But if you just purely looking at the spec, it's almost identical. But the thing is about reliability and also the build. And it's definitely on the professional level cameras, it would be more rugged in feel, because yeah, the bigger grip, also the overall construction would be definitely better and more solid than the EM5. And not that EM5 is not capable. That's why a lot of the time I actually use the EM5 as my backup camera, because it's light and small, so I could just shove it in my bag somewhere. And the EM1 would be my working camera. Similarly to my EM1X that I'm using to film at the moment, and this is the ultimate reliability workhorse. I actually use the 1X to do all my shoots now, because it's just super reliable. Yeah, it's something that you really cannot put money on it. Yeah, it's difficult, you know, like a lot of working photographers will definitely agree with me if they're listening to this. Is definitely worth every penny if you're coming to it from a professional point of view. Likewise, you know, if you want to go out to shoot, you know, things like these, and this particular shot, of course, you know, you can see that is a moment shot, and it's not so much about rain and weather elements and things like that. So this you can actually capture with EM5 or even the EM10, to be frank. And so it's actually okay to do that. But if you are stuck, you know, like I mentioned about reliability, and you have to start thinking again, you know, if you're halfway through the shoot doing something like this creative, yeah, it will be fine. There's nothing to stop you doing that, but there is still a tendency of any mechanical or electronic failure that you have to bring up a second camera. And also I'm just showing you another proposal shots like these, you know, against another really big moment there. And this was a very cold day and also very damp. My camera was actually wet, and yeah, it's something that you need to make sure that you can, your tool can perform in that sort of situation. And I remember I had camera freezed up on me in winter days. Then I couldn't, you know, take the first couple of photos because the camera actually seized up. I had to bring up my second camera out and just continue to shoot. But yeah, it's a nightmare when you do that. Then finally, you know, just something like these, you know, once again, just these are slightly more easier because it's a portrait shoot, and it's a lot more calm environment. You know, it's not about moments, so you know, it's a lot easier. If I do have a camera failed, I could simply tell her, you know, oh, sorry, just give me 5 minutes. I need to change my camera or change the lens. It's a lot easier in this sort of environment. But most of the time, if you go and shoot, especially with clients who paid you for a certain amount of time, weddings, you know, you don't want to miss anything, and because they will hate you forever. They will not come back for you for a second service. That's for sure. So that's just what I want to talk about these camera thing. You know, like, so hopefully give you kind of understanding what you would need, and you have to kind of assess yourself whether you will need your camera to perform certain things. You know, like I mentioned, whether it's going to be travel, going to be for fun, whether you want to progress into professional in future. These will affect your decision how much budget you should be allocating to purchase your gear. And this is only for camera, but lenses wise, you know, and it's even harder because depending on you know, the look and feel that you want to achieve. But in terms of budget, it's very similar to what I mentioned about camera, because like all camera manufacturers, they have beginner level lenses, and then they have the kind of middle line camera lenses. Then they have the pro lenses, where to be kind of like have all the whistles and all singing, dancing thing, like weather seal, rugged metal body kind of thing. And yeah, similar to all the Olympus stuff, you know, the pro lenses are really well built, and then compared to premium lenses, they are just a little bit different, because they yeah, they're not aiming for using in the rain a lot. You know, they're not weather seal. They are aiming for the, you know, amateur levels. But don't get it wrong though, these are still really super lens. You know, they are superbly sharp, and like I mentioned so many times about the premium lenses from Olympus, they are really great lenses. They're just not weather seal, that's it. And of course slightly slower. But yeah, that's all I want to say. Hopefully that that will give you some kind of guidance there. But I do have something to share with you guys. Two things. First of all, before I go on to the Penf, is about merchandise. Remember, I showed you a few merchandise this week. I showed you the hat first, and I showed you the beanie hat on the second day. And yesterday, Wednesday, I showed you a pin. And today, I have another thing to show you. Not the hat, but what's underneath the hat. Ta-da! You know, I think I actually wore it completely wrong. It's called a Buff, and then I don't know if you heard about Buff. You know, they are a company who makes a lot of these really kind of funky cloth thing that you can wrap around your neck as a scarf, or you can do it as a hat, like what I'm doing now, beanie hat kind of thing. And apparently it's a very young, funky thing to do. I'm not that young, but I'm trying it out. But if something that you're kind of keen, and you're an Olympus fan, of course, this is really, really cool. I'm going to take it off to see you. Don't scream with my hair, because I'm pretty sure it's already gone funny and flat. So let me just pull it off. Oh, whew. Oh, look at this. Horrible. Right, so this is what it looks like. It's actually pretty good. So it's a tube. Basically, it's an elastic tube, right? And so it's like this. So you can actually use it as a scarf. Just basically, just go around your neck, as your head, and just lift it on your neck. It will become kind of a nice little scarf there. But it's actually pretty cool, because Buff is a big company. If you go into the website, I think it's just buff.com, B-U-F-F, and you will see a whole load of different style. But they are doing a collaboration with Olympus. So this is a special Olympus Buff, and then. And it also have that same logo, Zuiko, that I showed you before. Awesome, right? It's pretty cool. So I think this is pretty something, and I might actually use this. It's actually quite comfortable. At the time I was wearing, although it was quite warm for today, but it's actually pretty cool. You know, it's because it's actually elastic and very soft. So yeah, and I can understand why people like it. You know, even though I've never used or seen one. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It even came with an instruction from that thing that it wraps up with, and it shows you some sort of instruction how you can use the Buff to do certain things. So that's pretty cool. So I need to study that, and you know, I want to be trendy, right? I want to be trendy. So in the meantime, I'm wearing my hat just because, yes, that's a little bit too warm for me, and so this is better for summer days. So. Last thing I want to share with you guys, and thank you for sticking around to the end, is yesterday my friend Paul from Facebook has given me a news, and I want to share with you guys about. It's actually pretty cool, because one of the Olympus cameras has become the most beautiful camera in 2020. That's according to, you know, of course, that news, right? I just want to share that with you guys, and let me just bring that up so you can see it. And right, let me share the screen so you can see. There we go. Right, this is according to Ape 2 Gentlemen, the website, and the most stylish cameras in the world, 2020 edition. Right, of course, you can see the big thumbnail there. First one is of course, the Leica. You know, it's always on the list. Whichever year you look at, it is always there because it's such a classic design. And you know, if you look at the latest M10, it's just basically the same look and feel as the original M3 film camera back in the 1950s, late 1950s, early 1960s. Beautiful camera, classy, never got out of date. It's just fantastic looking, right? And so if you kind of like just starting to scroll down, and then yeah, you can see more of the angle, different colors, a black color here, so it's fantastic. And then you have the Nikon Df. Not sure if you guys remember this camera. This one came out quite some time ago now, and it's not particularly high resolution, very low by today's standard, and but it's a beautiful looking, retro looking camera that kind of mimic the original FM series camera from Nikon. And I remember my FM3 and the FM2, they look almost identical, although this particular DF is quite a bit bigger than the film version, but it has the same kind of form factor. The prism design is very, very similar. All the dials are kind of like the old shutter speed dial on the film camera and kind of thing. It's really beautiful looking thing. And also it came with that special edition lens that kind of have the same look of the original Nikon AIS lenses. So the overall aesthetic is actually very, very nice. I do like this camera. Then they have X-T3, which I am really shockingly to see that on this list. Not saying that it's not a beautiful camera, but personally, I actually think the X Pro 2 and the X Pro 3 looks way better than this. And yeah, I'm never really into styling, not so much about whether it's a good camera or not. I'm just saying, and I can't understand why the X-T3 is more beautiful than the X Pro if you are a Fuji fan. And I much prefer the X Pro in terms of styling because it looks more like a rangefinder camera. Yeah, okay, I don't know why. But, of course, ta-da! The Olympus Penf is on the list. And don't forget that this camera has already been discontinued by Olympus. You can still buy it through the website, but it's more like a leftover stock you can get. But it's a masterpiece. You can just read about it. And you know, it's timeless design, the finest material, and a piece of true modern craftsmanship. And it is true. Very, very true. I'm just going back to my screen now, and you know, I have one right here. This is the black, of course. It's the black version instead of silver. And I have obviously the special Penf cap as well on the 45 1.8 lens. But this thing is really a true craftsmanship show masterpiece. If you look around the entire camera, there is not a single screw you can find. And I really still today, I can't figure out how they actually put this together. Yeah, you know, if you look at like the EM1, the EM1X, the EM10-5, whatever, yeah, you can see screws everywhere. You can kind of almost disassemble the camera yourself. And this, I have no idea. You might have to rip them apart, and it's amazing. You know, I don't know how they managed to do this, but it's just nice. It's just a super nice looking camera. It's very retro. You know, every time I take this one out, people really think it's a film camera. It's fantastic looking, as you can see from the news. It's just a silver one. You know, Tracy has a silver one, and then it is a really beautiful camera body, and still very capable. It has this 20 megapixels camera, TruePic 7, I think, TruePic 7 processor. So it's not the latest and the greatest in terms of processing, but it's still a very capable camera. Like I mentioned, if you are a dedicated photographer, you don't shoot a lot of film and movies and things like that, the Penf is actually pretty decent and very good for what it does. I think it will remain in my list of Hall of Fame, you know, for cameras. And even though it's a digital, because usually digital cameras go out of date in a few years time, and you just think, I need to update or change another thing for the latest technology. But this thing will go onto my Hall of Fame, you know, book for sure. This is definitely one of my favorite cameras outside of, you know, Leicas and other stuff. Yeah, I love this guy. You know, if you ever never try one, or if you have an intention of to getting a camera, if you don't mind paying just a little bit of a premium, you can still get the Penf brand new. If not, a used example, if you manage to find a nice clean example, I think it's a time to get it, because it's actually a really good one. And later on, you may not be able to find a good clean examples second hand. So yeah, I think it's a very cool camera, full stop. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's live stream. And obviously I talked a little bit about the camera and sort of budget, money you should spend on a camera. And this is an exceptional thing. Of course, you know, it's still fairly expensive for what it is, because this thing is launched in 2015. So it's a 5-year-old camera, or actually no, I think it's early 2016. I beg my pardon. So it's a 4 years camera now, and it's still, you know, selling online for around about 900 quid, £1,000, and without lens, and then of course with the lens kit thing, you know, will be even more. So it's still quite a dear camera, but it shows in terms of quality and the craftsmanship. So if you don't mind paying that, if you do have that budget, if you are just a photographer, yeah, that may not be a bad investment, because it's a very nice looking thing. I think you won't be disappointed. That's my talk today. So thank you for joining me, and remember, I have my one last stream tomorrow in the morning between 11 to 11:30, and today, this afternoon, I have a special interview. Not me interviewing someone, it's actually I being interviewed by Professional Photo Magazine in the UK. So if you want to join me and talk about Olympus and my history and why I started photography and moved into filmmaking and all these hybrid shooting things, if you want to learn a little bit more about the camera, OMD cameras, and also on the video features, and especially if you want to add videos to your game, you are very welcome to join me. It's all free of charge, and I'm going to put the link in the description so you can join me live and ask me all sorts of questions if you want in that particular interview. So I'm looking forward to see you guys if you are there. So until then, I shall see you either later or tomorrow. Bye for now.